Another key speaker and special guest, Professor K.K. Aggarwal. K.K. Aggarwal is a chairman, National Board of Accreditation. Professor K.K. Aggarwal served as a Pro Vice Chancellor, GJU Hisar, and then as a founder Vice Chancellor of GGS Indraprastha University, Delhi. He has been the President of Institution of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineers, IT, President Computer Society of India, President Southeast Asia Regional Computer Confederation. He was decorated with Lifetime Achievement Award by IIT and Computer Society of India. Professor K.K. Aggarwal, NBA, National Board of Accreditation means it is a hallmark of excellence. A quality of the higher education comes from the National Board of Education, and Professor K.K. Aggarwal has been a front runner as well as enhancing the quality and improving the quality and being a great friend. May I now request Professor K.K. Aggarwal, Chairman National Board of Accreditation, to give his keynote address as a special guest.
Uh, Thank you, Professor Bhimara Maitri, for nice words about me, as expected from a friend. Uh, Professor Sahasrabuddhe has made my job easier by talking quite a few points about national education policy. Let me first of all thank the Policy Times and Shiv Nadar University to jointly hold this World Education Conference. When I looked at the objectives of this conference, uh, I think you're trying to cover everything on Earth in 3 days. So that's a great challenge, but probably gives you the broad spectrum of everything. I'm so happy that Shiv Nadar University, which is represented here by Professor Roop Manjari Ghosh, uh, belonging to the set of thinking vice chancellors in the country, as I say, is partnering with this conference. And Akram Haq is very passionate about it, passionate about the ideas, and passionate about collecting people to come and share the ideas. So, and great success. Friends, having said this, and looked at the time at your disposal in the conference, I really was failing to understand what to address. But then I thought national education policy would be the cup of tea. What Professor Sahasrabuddhe has talked quite a bit of it. But nonetheless, I see national education policy in terms of more of attributes change rather than regulations and structural changes and so on and so forth. It is for the first time that a policy talks about creativity and innovation to that extent, right from 3-year-old child up to the research student. It is for the first time that a policy talks about entrepreneurship skills for everybody. See, so far we were feeling entrepreneurship is for engineers, entrepreneurship is for MBAs. No, entrepreneurship is for everybody. That is for this policy to bring in. It is for the first time the policy has brought in outcome based education for everybody. You must define the outcome. What do you expect the student to achieve? At the moment, we only say you are admitted into engineering, so you will have to be here 4 years. I will teach you this, and thereafter, all of us hope that you will be a good engineer. That has been our style of functioning in the university system, which this policy has at least given a trigger that it has to change. I'll come to it a little later. Then good citizenship is for the we've talked about for the first time in an education policy. I have been always saying that we produce good engineers without making sure that they are good citizens. We make good doctors sometimes, competent doctors, but not good human beings. And where does it finally go? We all know. So therefore, the pyramid had to be good citizen, then maybe good engineer, then may be good mechanical engineer, then may be good air conditioning engineer, something like that. We worked other way around. We focused everything on artificial intelligence, everything on IoT. Whether you become a citizen or not is not the concern of education. Now that is, this policy is again giving a signal that it has to change. This policy is giving a signal that computational thinking has to be a change mindset. Many people have asked me, sir, you are a professor of computer science. Will a child of 6 or child of 8 be able to adopt computers? I said, no, that's not this philosophy. Philosophy is computational thinking. How do you break up the problem? How do you logically analyze a problem? And how do you try to systematically find the solution to the problem? That is what everybody has to learn. Uh, Communication skills is an attribute which has been brought in the policy. Multidisciplinarity is an attribute which has been brought in the policy. So I see this policy not in terms of so much in terms of structural changes, which, as Professor Sasrabuddhe said, will depend upon how do we implement it, but more as a trigger to the attributes which must be developed right from a school child up to a PhD student. And that, I think, is a great trigger which we all have to take home too. Having said that, I thought, after all, you have invited me because I'm Chairman National Board of Accreditation as of date. Therefore, I must talk about accreditation a little. As Professor Sahasrabuddhe said, this policy makes four clear separate verticals: regulation, accreditation, uh, standard setting, and grants. Now these are four separate verticals, and there's a reason behind it, so that one vertical performance should not influence the other. And therefore these four verticals have been set, and accreditation has been made a separate vertical in these four verticals. Friends, at the moment, there are two agencies in this country for accreditation. One is NAC and another is NBA. And as Dr. Sahasrabuddhe hinted, NAC accredits institutions as a whole, NBA accredits programs. Because all over the world, it has been accepted. No university can be good in all programs. And hopefully, no university will be bad also in all programs. There could always be some strength areas somewhere or the there, and therefore accreditation of programs will probably be a better concept in the long run. The spirit in the national education policy is that if every institution has to be accredited in the due course of time, not by force of accreditation, then we need too many accreditation bodies. These two may not be able to take up the whole load. I hope this must have been talked since morning. We have about, all told, about 50,000 institutions in higher education. Now, if all of them have to be accredited, then the volume of work is terrific, and therefore an overarching body, which will be called as National Accreditation Council, will be set up, and under which we may have several accreditation agencies. NBA, NAC may continue to be in the same format or some revised format. There may be an agency for medical education. There may be an agency for law education. There may be an agency for different level of institutions, and so on and so forth. So that will be the change. The basic line which has been used in the policy is accreditation will be the new form of regulation. This has been practiced in the world in many countries. See, we had too many roadblocks to start an institution. Uh, Say, for example, AICT, when you want to start an engineering college, and after all, AICT gives you the approval based on your promises. Nothing else is possible. Accreditation comes into picture when you are already 6 years old, and therefore more ground realities can be assessed. And also, Accreditation, like in NBA already, will have to be outcome based education. We will not be bothered about uh, inputs as much as we are doing now. I've been giving an example. All of us know a house is made up of so many bricks, so many tons of bags of sand, and so on. But if you put so many bricks, so many sand, and so many cement, does it become a house? No. To make a house, you will have to have a structure, a proper structure. You go to the tailor and say that this is 3 meters of cloth, stitch a suit for me, don't bother about my measurements. That's what we do in education. We don't bother about the interest of the students at all. We do not even talk to him or her what you want to be. I give a crude example of cricket. If we make in a game of cricket, well, your marks in 12th will decide whether you will be a batsman or a bowler. Or I'll make you run across the road, and if you are a fast runner, you will be a bowler. Otherwise, you will be a batsman. Any formula will make a mess of it. Ultimately, it is the player and the coach which take a joint decision whether you are good enough to be a bowler or a good enough to be a batsman. Now, have we done that, ever tried that in an education institution where teacher talks to the student and tries to find out what he or she could possibly best be at? Now, that is something which I look forward to as a change in accreditation as we go along. It's not easy. In the morning, when I was there for some time, Professor Rupmandri Ghosh opened with a very nice quote, which is now quite popular: fish climbing a tree. If that becomes a outcome, the fish will never get accredited. That does not mean it's not a good fish. You will have to go to not only outcome based education for institutions, ultimately we'll have to go to outcome based education for each student, what each student has the capability of, and that only will give me success in multidisciplinary education. How do I decide what subjects a student will suit the best till I know what he wants to become? Half of our engineering students, or more than half of our engineering students, wants to go to MBA. Why not orient them right now during engineering education? So outcome based education will have to go beyond the institution's boundaries to each individual. It's a difficult thing to do, but we will probably have to find out which is a fish and how can it become a better fish, which is a monkey who knows how to climb a tree, but how to make a better monkey out of it. So first of all, we'll have to recognize which is a fish, which is a monkey, and so on and so forth, and then set the targets for them. That will be the accreditation in the future. Uh, and I think if we want to make a success, we'll have to do. I was addressing a webinar last month, and a teacher asked me a question which I didn't like, but then everybody has the right to ask and should have a right to ask. She said, "Sir, this policy is too much for the students, but nothing for the teachers." I said, "You have answered the question yourself. If a policy has too much for the students, what else should a teacher want? What else should a teacher want? Ultimately, our aim should be the student." And I've used this sentence, I remember: forget about what you know and concentrate on what student needs to know. Now, that is the mindset change which we'll have to bring in, and you will have to facilitate that. Uh, Unless we do that, and finally, friends, we'll have to make accreditation a dynamic process. Uh, Things will keep on changing. Artificial intelligence will not be a subject required by computer science students. It will be required as subject required by art students, by science students, by commerce students, by doctors, and we'll have to bring that in the process of accreditation and make it very dynamic. And National Education Council will have to set some sort of uniformity between various accreditation agencies to give it a very meaningful quality orientation. I always say a higher education devoid of quality increasing GER will probably be counterproductive. I'm sorry for making this statement because the nation is so much focused on GER. I am for GER, but if you concentrate on GER without bothering about quality, I don't know whether we'll be creating assets or liabilities. Please let us all increase GER, but with a strong eye on quality. And finally, a word was said here about cooperation between Bangladesh and India. I think we, in Washington Accord, we are already a member, and Bangladesh is certainly trying to go it in, and we will be, India as accreditation board will be ready to give all help possible for Bangladesh to also improve, because I just heard the minister, the ideas are noble, intentions are great. And Manish Sodhya ji, I have had personal interaction. He is a minister passionate with education, particularly with school education. And I'm sure things will move forward. Once again, with these words, I thank the Policy Times, particularly Akram Haq, Shiv Nadar University, particularly Dr. Mrs. Ghosh, and all of you for giving me this opportunity to be on this platform, though for a few minutes. Thank you very much and wish you all the great conference for 3 days. Thanks a lot.